Welcome to the Miscarriage Hope Desk Podcast, where we help women struggling with recurrent pregnancy loss by sharing stories of hope and interviews with experts in the field of fertility and miscarriage. If you want to download our free lab checklist, go to miscarriagehopedesk.com/labs. Again, you will go to miscarriagehopedesk.com/LABS to download your free checklist. If you want to connect with others going through recurrent miscarriage, please check out our show notes for a link to our Facebook group. Now I'm going to hand it over to your host, Laura Bowder, for today's episode.
Welcome back to the Miscarriage Hope Desk Podcast. Today I have Dr. Tanya English with me. She's been working for over 30 years in healing, first as a massage therapist and then as a chiropractor and energy healer. She's also an accomplished blues singer, which I'm really excited to hear more about. And we're going to hear a little bit about her story shortly, but after experiencing a stillbirth, she had a profound healing experience through blues music and went on to practice chiropractic and energy healing for the next 18 years. So, Dr. English, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Laura. I'm so glad to be here with you today.
I'm really excited to dive into your story. I'd love to start out with just giving you a chance to give us a little background information about yourself and how you got into the work that you're doing now.
Okay, great. About 1987, I graduated from massage therapy school in New York City, and then worked as a massage therapist for some years, and then decided I wanted to go ahead and go to chiropractic college. And while I was working in massage therapy, I would pick up information from people just intuitively, and I didn't really know what to do with it. They don't really discuss that in chiropractic college either.
Yeah.
So it's more nuts and bolts, more anatomy and physiology. And I was always picking up this information and realized that I had an intuitive gift, and studied with a spiritual teacher, and we discovered that actually I'm pretty good at that. And I believe that we have two more senses than we're told. We have 7 senses. We have intuition and psychic ability. But when we're taught that it's evil or bad, or that we shouldn't pay attention to our feelings, then we don't let that part of ourselves grow. We don't use it. And so it's like a muscle that's atrophied. So when you start to put attention on it and you start to use it, it gets stronger and you feel more stable with it. And so I use the chakra system as a way to have that as a structure for when I'm reading somebody's energy and also how I'm working with them. And it becomes a really beautiful experience. With the first way that I work with people is doing an intuitive energy scan. And that's when I'm doing the exam for their energy. I'm reading their energy. And then as I went on in energy healing, I started using some of the techniques that I use with people on the table, on the chiropractic table, right over there. And, and I was able to translate that into doing the energy work that I like to do. And I do that over the phone and online remotely with people all over the world.
Wow. It's really interesting to think about kind of those senses that you mentioned. Was there any particular moment, or was it just kind of a collection of moments that led you to that realization?
Yeah, it was a collection of moments over a lifetime. And what was really interesting to me was how much people negated that. And our culture is not, that's not considered valuable. Even as a spiritual gift, it's kind of brushed aside. And so what I did was say, well, obviously I have this gift. I can read people very well. I can tell what's going on with them. And as I honed it, I was able to zero in on what their actual cause of their problem was. Because what we see is the physiology is expressing what's going on subconsciously inside of the person, and subconscious because people don't know that their body's doing this feeling over and over again, or that there's a stuckness. So they think that this is just the way it is. It's sort of like when people ask me, when I ask them if they want to do some healing, and they say, oh no, that's okay, I feel good. And my question to that is, how do you know that's as good as you can feel? So there's underlying things, that patterns of physiology that keep people in a dis-ease state that left unchecked leads to disease.
Yeah.
So what I try to do is, what I'm doing, actually, I'm not trying to do it, I'm doing it, is opening that door for them to walk through, to allow more of the wisdom that they're born with, the wisdom of the body, come in and do the work that it needs to do. And we're always asking source energy, spiritual energy, to come into, inviting that in.
So what you're saying is people might be coming to you, originally because they're having aches and pains, or they're
Mhm.
just feeling like something isn't right.
Yeah.
And so there is a physiological component to that, but also this more spiritual component that you're talking about as
Yeah.
well.
I mean, separating those things out doesn't really make people healed.
Mm,
It's when we put it all together that people have a healing experience. So we aren't systems that are separated. You can't take away somebody's nervous system and expect them to live. You
right.
can't separate those things out because we're physical quantum beings. So my overarching business is Quantum Healing International. And that's because I'm doing quantum healing with people remotely. And so what happens is we're making a very small change that changes everything. In quantum physics, which is the physics of living systems, one small change changes everything. In Newtonian physics, that's like inanimate objects, an apple falling from a tree. That's what we're talking about in there. Billiard balls on a pool table.
Hmm.
That's that's an inanimate Newtonian. A does this, then B does this, and then C does that. But in quantum physics, we're doing all, and anybody who's a parent knows everything happens all at once,
Yes.
right? So we have that experience too. And what really led me to working with the population that I love to work with, which is women who've experienced stillbirth, pregnancy loss, and birth trauma, is that happened to me. And I said to myself, and I was in chiropractic college when it happened, and I said, okay, well, I can either decide that I don't believe everything happens to the highest good. And I went down that road for about 10 minutes and I went, no. Or I can decide that I do believe everything happens to the highest good. So show me the good, bring it on.
Mm,
And I asked God, just put me where I need to be for healing to happen, because I knew this was a big deal. When life and death happens inside of our bodies, it's it's a big wake up call, and it's not about being punished. I think a lot of people, and I know myself too, when it happened, I was like, what did I do wrong? I mean, I'm really taking care of myself. I have lots of people taking care of me. I'm in, a healing business. I have people that are working with me. So how could this have happened? And really, it's more about not so much how it happened, but what can I get out of this experience that's good for me, that's actually bringing me to a new level of realization in my life, a new level of closeness with source energy, which is another word for God, but I use source a lot because some people get triggered really easily.
hmm.
So that's what brought me to working in this way.
Okay. Yeah. And I know that, you have this personal experience with
Yeah.
a stillbirth. What
And miscarriage, I had a miscarriage as well.
Okay, yeah. And so what did those experiences do as far as bringing you, did you notice any changes as far as your intuition or what you were feeling spiritually through those particular experiences?
Yeah, making that decision and deciding what I was going to believe, which
Hmm.
we all get to do. But some people don't want to venture out of what they've been taught. But I was not brought up with any specific teaching that I had to adhere to. So I felt very blessed that I could just reach out the way I wanted to, which felt very organic to me.
Hmm.
Is like, okay, God, show me what this is, because I know this is a big deal. This is something major that's happening in my life,
Yeah.
and I need to be aware of what's going on. So we had quite a few very strange things happen before, during, and after that experience. And then I had a live baby who just turned 25 yesterday.
Hmm.
And then I had a miscarriage after that.
Hmm.
And for me, I think in possibly the experience was, what did I do? What's going on in my life that isn't allowing this to take place? I want people to understand that they're not being punished because there's something that they did or didn't do.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's really not about punishment. It's about, where are you going to go to in your life for answers, for joy again in your life, without brushing this under the rug? Because
Yeah.
here's the thing that happens when we tend to push things under the rug, or we just wait until we have that rainbow baby, or we, and didn't know that term when I had my son, who is alive and 25 right now. So I didn't know what that was. I wasn't trying to do something. I was letting something happen. I was allowing it to happen
Mm-hmm.
with pregnancy. And then after the miscarriage, I said, I kind of feel done with this part of my life of sharing my body and having things do this. And I didn't try to, but I didn't really ever get pregnant again. So, I kind of made a decision, like, I feel done with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've got a beautiful son. He's a wonderful person. He was a cute little baby at the time. Just the most beautiful baby ever, of course.
Of course.
And and I thought, and I also had two stepdaughters, my bonus daughters, that I was also raising, who were 10 and 11 years older than the baby. So I had a full plate, plus a
Mm-hmm.
practice to run,
Yeah.
plus, and all that goes with being in a community. So I was busy, and I thought, it's okay for me to let this go, this part go, because I've got the full plate here. I have children I didn't know I'd have.
Mm-hmm.
I have one that I was really happy to have. Not that I wasn't happy to have the girls, but I didn't even expect that to happen in my life. Things
Yeah.
happen you don't expect. So for me, it wasn't so much as like things happening one after the other, but making that decision that I was going to see where the good was in this and counting it all joy. Because even when these difficult things happen, these very hard times in our life happen, they can become a well of blessings in our life. And we don't have to stay in the tragedy. My father-in-law, who was a pastor, said, we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We don't pitch a tent and live there. So
Mm-hmm.
let's keep moving. And it doesn't mean that you forget what happened. It just means that you don't attach it to, I was punished, it's my fault, the blame, the shame. We get rid of that because it's not necessary.
Yeah. I think, as you know, when you're going through something like that, especially in the immediate aftermath,
Mm-hmm.
it's really easy to feel like you are always going to be stuck in that place, like whether
Yeah.
you want to be or not. It doesn't always seem like there's a clear way out of it. So, um,
Yeah.
what do you suggest for
Well,
seeing a way through that?
what I suggest is, having someone like me come alongside and walk you through it,
Mm-hmm.
because there is a huge opportunity there. And what people don't realize is that everything that's negative that happens in your life is a huge opportunity for you to move closer to source energy, which means you allow that to take over and run your life, basically. And you just pay attention to it. And how do we do that? We do that through our intuition. We do that through starting to trust that we are being heard, that the universe, God, source energy, is hearing us, is listening to us, is nurturing us, supporting us. And so when you don't have that experience with human beings, because they're fallible, right?
Mm-hmm.
We should just call ourselves mistake makers, because that's what we do. But it's also how we learn.
Yeah.
So when we have somebody come alongside to walk us through that, that's what makes a huge difference in our lives. And that's why I offer that service to women. I do 3 and 6 month packages with people to show them, like, I'm going to give you tools so that you can, and you're going to practice with them, and you're going to get good at using those tools so that you can allow more of that in your life. And that's actually what led me to the healing with blues music.
Yeah.
So I know you're interested in that.
I am.
So, and healing with the blues, obviously, I have to say something about it, right?
Well, I think
So
music can be so powerful. And
yeah,
I feel like a lot of times if we don't know what else to do with ourselves, we'll turn to music, or we have really strong memories associated with songs. So yeah,
yes,
I'm curious to hear more about that
yeah.
connection.
Well, my husband is a bass player and has been a blues bassist for years, and I've been watching him in other bands, and I have to say that I do have a undergraduate degree in theater, so I'm familiar with performing. But what what happened to me was like I said, God put me where I need to be for healing to happen, because I
Yeah.
know it can come from anywhere. It doesn't have to be through one venue or one thing that happens. It can come from anywhere at all, because God can use anything to bring us closer. So I found myself at the Blues Festival in our town in Davenport, which was one of the top 10 blues festivals in the world at one point. And at that point, it was just an amazing experience. They had several stages. I went to the tent stage, my husband went to the main stage. I walked into the tent, and there were the Blind Boys of Alabama, which is primarily a gospel group, but blues as well. They're cousins,
Mm.
right? um, Blues and gospel. And um, I had a healing. I came out of that tent different than I went in. I felt the amount of love that is there for each one of us. I felt it on me. I I came out. My husband walked toward me. We met in the middle, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I am really okay. I get this." And I've had many experiences like that in my life, where I've been totally overwhelmed by the amount of love there is for us. And so I feel my calling is to help people experience that as well. And so I have many techniques to help them do that. And then as they're experiencing that, then they can start to hone their own abilities and gifts. And one of the gifts that I received was being able to sing blues music.
Mm.
And blues is a healer, because, and every musician that plays blues knows that, and people who love blues music understand that it's a healer, because it's naming
Yeah.
your feelings, and it's telling you you're not the only person that's ever felt like this. You're not alone. So when I sing Drown in My Own Tears, which is a great Ray Charles song,
Mm-hmm.
I know the story behind Drown in My Own Tears in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were first doing that in rehearsal, I started crying, and our drummer said to my husband, "Is she okay?" And he said, "She's got the blues, baby. She's got it.
Yep.
This is how it shows up." So I tell people all the time, crying is cleansing. Let it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. And vibration from music can hit it just like that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
it's
it's
true. I
very
think
powerful.
you find emotions in music that maybe you didn't even really really know. And I was wondering too, like, I mean, is that just part of that intuitive piece that we tend to close off in our everyday lives?
Good job, Laura. Yes, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. Because I mean, I can think of experiences in my own life where like a song will hit me and I'll be like, I didn't even really realize that I was
Why am
feeling
I
that way
crying?
about a certain thing. Yeah. Or why am I crying about this? Or,
A chord progression can do it. Like
mm-hmm.
you can go from one chord to another. There's a couple of songs that I mean, have you ever listened to Let It Be and really
Mm-hmm.
listened to it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's Paul McCartney talking about his mother coming to him in a dream saying, "Just let it be, it's okay." And then he turns it into a song so we can all get that message. I mean, it's powerful.
Yeah.
Music is powerful. If you want to learn as much of the placeholders for pi, which is infinite, you learn it in a song, and then you can regurgitate it, you can
Yep.
sing it back.
That's why I still know all the states in alphabetical order.
Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas. Yeah,
Exactly.
we all know.
It's that same song.
Exactly. So I do a live healing session every Tuesday morning in my Facebook group. I have a private Facebook group. You can join, anybody can join. It's called Healing with the Blues.
Mm-hmm.
And every Tuesday morning I sing Healing with the Blues. That's right, I'm healing with the blues. I've got nothing left to lose. That's why I'm healing with the blues. Such a pain inside, The love that's there for me, I have denied. I've never had the blues this long, this deep, this wide. That's why I'm healing with the blues.
I can see why that works.
It, yeah, it touches us. And when I was seeing people as a performer, when I'm seeing people out in the audience have a healing experience,
Yeah.
and then I'm seeing it here in the office where people on the table there, um, you know, I went to a silent healing meditation retreat um, for 5 days, and I got the message, you're going to put these things together.
Mm-hmm.
How? I'm like, okay, show me how to do it. I don't really know. And it was really about who is it that I need to help? Who is it that needs to have that hand holding of somebody who's been through it, who's walked through it and come out the other side and can say, this was not a great thing that happened, but it definitely was a good thing that happened.
Yeah.
I can call it all good.
Right.
I was watching an interview the other day, and Oprah was interviewing Cicely Tyson, famous actress. And she said also almost exactly the same thing. She said, I don't call things tragedy in my life because if I live through it, I'm stronger. I'm wiser. I know things that I didn't know. And the idea is that you allow that to show up in your life instead of brushing it under the rug and saying, oh, well, I'll just keep doing this until I get what I want.
Yeah.
You're missing the opportunity if you're doing that. And the other thing I want to say for women that are going to watch this and their loved ones is, you know, you didn't do anything wrong. You're not being punished. So, you know, don't hold this against yourself, but allow it to show up as like a flower opening to you and releasing its fragrance to you so that you can really get what's there for you.
Yeah, I think being open to finding healing, like you said, is a really important part of just the grieving process. It can feel like, you know, the only thing I can do is just curl up in bed and cry, and I don't, you know,
And there's time for that.
Oh,
There's definitely
absolutely.
time for that.
Yeah, and I think that's important just to keep in mind is that, you know, no one is saying that the way that you're grieving is wrong or that you are, you know, not doing what you're supposed to be doing, but I really do think there's something to be said for what you're talking about and just recognizing that you do have to remain open to healing to some extent. If you close yourself off from that, then it's going to feel like you're always stuck in that space.
Exactly. And being stuck in that space will bring untold misery. Because if you don't allow that to happen, sure, you could go on and have a happy life and everything's very surface and happy. But what about the really good stuff that's deep, that nourishes your soul? That's important too. And to know how you get nourished, you in particular get nourished for that. And it can be quite different from what you think and what you're told is okay, because it's very individual. So you're really allowing yourself to have this experience of how deep will this go? I mean, it's life and death happening inside of you. How deep do you want to go with that? We had little kids, these two little girls who were waiting for their new baby to show up, and he's not there. And we had to explain to them, well, you know, people die. Nobody's getting out alive. Some people die when they're old. Some people die when they're young. Some people die when they've had enough. You know, they wear out. Some people die because of an accident or sickness, but we all are going to do it. So it's not that big of a mystery, by the way, because everybody does it. So it's okay. Teaching that to a 6 and 7-year-old so they don't think like something bad happened. Is it sad? Yes. Is it bad? No. You have to decide if you want to, you know, go down the road. I mean, here's what happened, Laura. As I said, what did I do to deserve this? Right? I was a nice person. I wasn't mean to people. I was caring. It's not happening to me. It's happening for me. Everything is happening for me. That means I have the responsibility to find out what is in here for me. What's the gift here?
Mm,
It's,
yeah.
yeah, kind of deep.
It's an important thought process though. And even if it's not something, if you're fresh off experiencing a loss of this kind, I mean, I don't think anyone can tell you how quickly, to move through
No,
that and get to this place. But I think it is important to keep in mind, like I said, just being open to that idea, and it will happen for you when you're ready for it.
yeah, I mean, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. So if any of this is resonating with anybody that's going to listen to it or watch it later,
Yeah.
feel free to get in touch with me. You can go to healingwiththeblues.com. You can set up a 15-minute consult with me easily. And then you can also join that Facebook group and
Yeah.
see some of the things that I've been doing over the last few years. And then I'm actually going to be doing a webinar soon called 5 Ways to Go from Grief to Relief Now. I'm just in the process of writing it. I'll probably be doing it in the next month.
Okay.
So if you go to the healingwiththeblues.com and there's a little, sign up there, you can sign up and then you'll get that email about when that's going to happen. That's going to be free as well.
Yeah.
And so there's a workbook that goes with it and everything. And we talk about some very fundamental things in that. It's not necessarily rocket science, right? It's pretty simple. But what's behind that it's bringing you to this deeper awareness of how much power we really have and how much we're given
Mm-hmm.
and what we're being trusted with. So my thought about our son, Eddie, we named him after his dad, Edward Oliver, and is that he was so efficient with what he was here to do that it only took him 9 months.
Yeah.
That's the way I think about him. Like he knew what he was up to immediately. And so it was really just, the blessing of like, oh, I can carry a baby full term. And it was sad and tragic to have that happen. But it's okay for you not to feel that loss forever in your life. It's okay
Mm-hmm.
for you to be happy again. It's okay for you to have a sense of humor again. I have time to tell a funny story about that.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. So my husband and I love to laugh. We just love being giggling and laughing and just sharing a good laugh. It's really one of the most wonderful things on earth, I think, is laughter. So we were very sad, obviously, about what was going on. I mean, you come home and there's no baby to hold. I walked around with a buckwheat hull pillow because I needed to feel that weight in my arms. And not in a daze or anything. I just was like, it felt good.
Mm-hmm.
So we're laying on the couch, just watching TV and being together. And this commercial came on that said, the woman said, there's nothing worse than a yeast infection. And we went, hallelujah. Thank God we don't have a yeast infection because apparently
There's
there is
nothing worse.
nothing worse. And we were rolling on the floor laughing just because it was so funny and comical to have somebody say there's nothing worse than that. Hey, wait a minute. I think I got
Yeah.
something worse.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to keep your sense of humor too. It's really
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Laughter is the best medicine after all. Laughter and singing, because it's all breathing.
Yes. No, I think that's a great story. And I think those are like the two sides that you really have to kind of balance, right? Is that
Yeah.
you don't want to be stuck in that place of darkness.
Yeah.
And it feels sometimes like, well, this sad thing happened and I need to just be over here in this place and it needs to be dark and heavy all the time. And you kind of feel guilty if something seems fun or light or you're laughing about something. Yeah, it takes a while to feel like it's normal to do that again.
It does. Remember I said that we had some weird things happen? I'll tell you
Mm-hmm.
2 of them. One was before we were going to church one day, and we were going to a meeting house because we're we're Quaker, so not Amish, Quaker, big difference. So we're going to the meeting house, and we were passing a church on the way, and and I was pregnant at the time, and at the driveway of the church that we were passing was a small white coffin going into a hearse. And I thought, that's weird. Why would I see that?
Mm-hmm.
That was the kind of question I asked myself. Why am I seeing that? And then after Eddie passed, we were standing in the living room, and we had windows that went all the way around the house where we lived. And it was up a couple of floors because it was on a hill. And we were standing in the living room, and a blue balloon floated by the windows.
Wow.
And I looked at Ed and I said, "Did you see that?" And he said, "Yeah." And we went outside and looked around to see if there was a party going on. There was nothing. But we both saw this blue balloon floating by our windows. It was just the most amazing thing. And to have that kind of feeling of, oh, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
This balloon is floating by. It's good. It's a blue balloon. Okay, I got it. Having things like that happen, and I know everybody's had something like that happen in their life. You know, with the miscarriage, it was, we had already had our son who was alive and kicking and was 18 months old. So there was no time to be in any kind of state with that. But it still wrecks your hormones because you're up and you're down. And we knew it was coming because I had been spotting and that sort of thing. So we kind of knew it was still difficult because, you know, I was like, can I go on a round the world cruise? Like, somebody should put me on that, right?
Yep.
Nope, had to go back to work. And I think it's important for us to remember that we have to take that time. We need the time off of our regular schedule to be able to heal and to be able to start to move forward in a different way, because we are vibrating at a different level when we have something like that happen.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So for anyone who is listening and, you know, is resonating with this message, can you just remind everybody where they can connect with you?
Sure. On Facebook, you can go to the page Healing with the Blues. You can join the private group Healing with the Blues, and you can go to the website healingwiththeblues.com. So any of those, you can schedule a 15-minute chat with me to see if you want to go further with that. I can talk to you about the intuitive energy scan and what that's like. You can schedule those as well. I think right now I just have the chat schedule there, but we can always make that available to you too. The intuitive energy scan is a way for you to experience and have someone else see what is there for you in your spirit and what is being held back and what you are not being allowed to or able to flow in the energy. So I can see where those things started. Mm-hmm. and what we might do to continue the healing process. So I don't do actual healing during that, but people get healed during it because they're being seen and they're open. So it's a totally safe experience.
Great. Well, all of that information will be linked in our show notes, so our listeners will have access. And thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story, and sharing your expertise with us as well.
Thank you so much, Laura. And I just I just want to give each and every one of your listeners a hug and say it's going to be okay. And there's more for you. There's more in your life for you. You can go from grief to grace, and we can find that treasure in the tragedy. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to check out our show notes for details on joining our Facebook group and for following along on Instagram. If you would like a free recurrent pregnancy loss lab checklist, go to miscarriagehopedesk.com/labs. Again, that's miscarriagehopedesk.com/LABS to get your free downloadable checklist. And for even more resources, visit the Miscarriage Hope Desk website, where we have stories of hope plus an entire library of evidence-based research articles related to fertility and miscarriage. If you enjoyed this episode, I would so appreciate it if you rate, reviewed, and subscribed to the Miscarriage Hope Desk podcast. Your ratings and reviews will help others to find us. I want to wrap up by saying that if you are going through a miscarriage, my heart goes out to you, and as difficult as your experience may be, I want you to know that you are not alone and that you will find a path forward.